welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 359, and today's date is May 6, 2014, and the title of this episode is Dirty Bomb Material Seized in Ukraine to be Used for a False Flag Event. Because what do we really know here? We really know that the United States, the central bankers, the FBI, the CIA are all in Ukraine orchestrating everything that's happening there. And we understand they are trying to provoke Russia into doing something. And if they do not do something, what will they do? They will use a false flag event to bring it home. And this is an indicator letting us know that they are showing the world that something was about to happen and they stopped it, and it was coming from, I don't know, Russia? And we can see where they are moving with this. They need to get this war started to cover up the economic collapse. Because what is happening in the economy is falling apart. It is a complete illusion. They used the winter weather as an excuse all throughout the winter months to show why housing wasn't good, why retail sales were dropping, and what we're finding out is the weather had nothing to do with the economy. Surprise, surprise, because if we use common sense, we realize that winter weather isn't everywhere. It's not in the south. It's not in the west. It snows in the northeast maybe one day. They come, they plow it, they salt, people go back outside. That is winter. And they're running out of excuses right now. And they realize this, and they understand what is happening at this time. And they're running out of explanations. They don't know what else to do but to start the war to cover up this entire collapse. It will be much easier to say, holy moly, this other country attacked us, brought down our power grid, brought the financial system to its knees. We have to put in capital controls. They started nuking us in certain cities. Chemical weapons were going off. It was because of this other country that did this to us, and now everyone has to sacrifice because they ruined our economy. We were on the cusp of recovering. So all of you people, you weren't sacrificing before, now you really have to sacrifice. You might have to earn half of what you were earning before. You might have to use your savings. Actually, you might have to give your savings to us, the government. If you have gold or silver, please hand it over. You need to make real sacrifices. You might even have to work without getting wages. That's how bad this is. And you can see where they are going with this entire scheme. And I call it a scheme because that's what it is. It is a complete trick. It's an illusion to make everyone believe that the economy will be devastated by another country and not by them, because they do not want to be blamed. They don't want to have anything to do with it, and they want this to come from someplace else. They want to look like they're helping, they're repairing. We need you to do more for the country because you haven't done enough. I know we're making millions of dollars, but you haven't done enough. This is what they're trying to do at this point, and we can see what is happening across the globe. They are losing control in the Middle East, they are losing control in Ukraine, and now they're getting set to invade Central Africa. So let's get into the economic collapse news, and let's take a look at what's really going on here. We look around, and they're telling us that everything is fine, and we see that the March trade deficit ended up being worse than $40 billion expected. It printed out about $40.4 billion. Now, we have to understand, they manipulate all the numbers. They falsify the numbers. They make it seem like we're in this economic recovery. And of course, during the winter months, they told us that, you know, people didn't go out spending because it was the winter weather and they stayed inside. Well, then we would have seen online sales skyrocket because, you know, you're sitting there in your pajamas, you got the heat on, it's snowing outside, you have nothing to do, so you sit there and you shop on the internet with your computer or your tablet or whatever you have. But guess what? None of this happened. Now, they said since everyone was pent up in their homes, they didn't go out and they didn't look for new homes. They didn't put their homes up for sale. And once all this winter weather is over, they're going to run out there and buy, buy, buy. Well, we can see that is not happening whatsoever. What we are seeing right now is that Goldman Sachs confirms that retail sales actually fell 2%. The Gallup polls confirm that Americans are spending the same amount of money they did in January, February, March, April. So the dollar amount has not changed whatsoever. The weather was not the cause of the down economy during the winter months. And we are going to see this economy fall even further because we're starting to realize now, well, we already knew what was happening. Everyone else is starting to realize that, wait a minute, the economy is actually not doing as well as they're telling us. And there are some people waking up now starting to realize this. They're starting to realize that housing is not going the way they are telling everyone. And they're seeing stores close all over the place. I mean, I was driving by a mall the other day. I saw JCPenney, Radio Shack, Office Depot, all closed. And what's funny is that today Office Depot came out and said they're closing 400 stores. So we can see what is happening. All of these retail stores are starting to close. And of course, they're using the excuse that everyone's buying their office supplies on the internet. Well, doesn't Office Depot, Office Max, Staples all have internet sites? So where are all these people going for office supplies? And we should see a huge, huge jump in these other companies, but we are not. We do not see this. And actually, Staples and Office Depot, they are struggling with declining sales right now. Office Depot posted a net loss of about $17 million. We are seeing this from every part of the retail industry because people, businesses, don't have the extra money. They're not just going out and spending like they did, and these retail stores are really getting hit hard. And it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse because you have to remember, during the summer months, spring, summer, retail sales really take a dive. It's not a very good time. It is a good time for housing, but I'm going to say we're going to get a little bump, and then it's going to start crashing. And this bump will come from giving people mortgages with hardly anything down, 3%, 0%, giving those people with subprime credit mortgages and people taking out adjustable rate mortgages. But after that, we're going to see the housing market completely implode on itself, and it's not going to get better. And we can really say right now that the American dream is actually gone. No one really can own a home and keep it at this time. I mean, I remember going back to my parents, my grandparents. They bought a house. They stayed in that house. They paid off the mortgage. Today, people can stay in the house for like 5, 6 years. The economy goes crazy. They lose everything. The house is taken away. They lose their job. And even with that, I mean, I remember my grandparents and their parents before them. They had their jobs forever. They didn't get laid off. Very rare. And we can see what is happening right now. Everything is changing. The American dream for owning a home has completely changed, but not for those very, very wealthy. Purchases that cost about $1 million or more in the housing industry rose about 7.8% in March, but those purchases around $250,000 or so, $300,000, $400,000 or lower, well, they plunged by 12%. So you can see that middle class right there, they don't have the ability to purchase. The very wealthy who are riding the stock market, the ride up, are taking advantage. But as soon as the market comes down, all of a sudden you'll see all these people that have been buying these houses, you will start to see them vacant. I remember this back in 2008 in the area in New York. There was a very wealthy area. I do not live there. And we saw, everyone was in there, the school district, one of the top in New York. And as soon as the crash came, all those houses were completely vacant. The school shrank. Actually, it was cut in half because they didn't have the student population anymore. We are going to see the same thing happen when this market comes down, and that is the last indicator to let everyone know that we know that what we already know, that the economy is completely collapsing. Otherwise, people think everything is great. Look, the stock market is up. That's all we're concerned with. Now, Switzerland, Singapore, and about 47 other nations worldwide right now are all agreed to share data and tax information under the new treaty that was signed with the United States. It is clearly the end of bank secrecy right now, and the United States will be going after everybody's money in all these banks. Because why are they doing this? Because they cannot keep up with the payments on this debt. They don't have enough revenue coming in to cover what they need to pay out, and they need to go find money anywhere they possibly can. This is why they have FATCA. This is why they have this OECD tax law coming out. This is why they're doing this. They are looking and looking for more and more money. Pretty soon there'll be no more money to be found, and we will be at the end game. They will not be able to push this any further. They will have to use an event to cover this up, and that is coming very soon. Now, we understand that Obamacare is completely not for the people, and Obamacare is having a huge amount of problems right now. You have to remember, with Obamacare, you are not really enrolled until you make that first payment. So when President Obama came out and said, oh, 8.1 million people, no, those people might have, most likely not, signed up for Obamacare, but until they pay, they have nothing. And what we are seeing in many, many states, that half of the people right now are not paying their premiums. So we can see this 8.1 million number is starting to slide. It's going to 4 million. It's going to 2 million. It's going to 1 million. It's going to about 500,000 people that are actually buying this stuff. And we can see that in the states of Texas, Illinois, Mississippi, Michigan, and many others, the amount of people that aren't paying are roughly from 52% all the way to 55%. This is a big problem. Obamacare is not going the way they thought. They're not getting that tax income coming in like they thought they were going to get. I think when they figured it out, it was going to be about $200 billion coming in from Obamacare. And there's other taxes intertwined into Obamacare, and they're not getting anywhere near this. And this is why we're seeing the rush to climate change. And they're ringing the bells. They're saying, oh my God, climate change is here. Everyone, we're going to have to really, sacrifice, pay more money to stop this climate change. And they're really pushing this. A new White House report released Tuesday concludes that human-generated climate change is having dramatic effects on every part of the nation. Now, of course, if you realize this, they changed the name from climate warming or global warming because they realized with all these winters, they're getting colder and colder because humans do not change the climate on the world here. It's actually the sun. And scientists have proven this. This whole climate change is a complete hoax, and you will see why they are doing this. Obamacare was expected to bring in tax money. Climate change right now is going to be used to tax you probably in the next month or 2 months or so, or maybe 3 months. They're waiting for the warmer weather to come in to say, oh my God, see, look, droughts, warm weather, and of course it's the summer in the United States, but look at this is just terrible. We're going to have to really do something. And people in California who have already seen more taxes on their electric bills already starting, and now what we're seeing in California is they're going to introduce, and I mentioned this many, many reports ago, that they're going to tax you in ways that have to do with energy. And again, all this tax money is not going to go to help climate change because there's no such thing. And all these scientists that are telling you about climate change, they're all getting paid and they all have grants with the government and they do not want to lose this money coming in. And they're all, pushed into a certain criteria to come up with the answers the government wants. It's almost like Common Core, where they're trying to push everyone into a certain area. They're doing it with climate change with the scientists by giving them grants and money. They want certain information to be put out there, but there are petitions from other scientists that do not have grants or money coming in from the government, and they are in the thousands saying climate change is a complete and utter hoax. But a senator in California is going to introduce legislation, and this is going to be voluntary, and you know what this always means. Every time the government comes out and tells you it's voluntary, it means it's going to be permanent and required of every single person going forward. But right now it's voluntary, and I don't know who wants to volunteer for this, but they want to tax you on every mile that you drive. Senator Mark DeSaulnier introduced a bill to test out the vehicle miles traveled tax, the VMT. And Carmen Smith was out there saying, I bought a hybrid because of my drive. I'm very opposed. I drive to Bretton Wood every day from Burbank. I'm already paying more than I should be. So if I go on a vacation and I drive to a certain location, or I drive 600 miles, we're going to be taxed for going on vacation. And it's very confusing. And you have to remember, all these taxes are going to be implemented that have to do with energy. You driving, well, fuel is energy. Your electric bill, how much energy you use in your house. This is how they're going to tax every single person. So your income that it's coming in and your disposable income is going to start to slide now, because you're going to be paying more taxes to help with climate change. And then as years go by, they're going to say, oh, we need more taxes to stop this climate change. And it will never, ever stop, because there is no such thing as this climate change. They will not use the tax money for this, just like they didn't use the gasoline tax to fix all the roads. And this is why they want to put tolls up to fix the roads. These taxes always go to someplace else, like Yemen, Iraq, Ukraine, Israel, every other place, to keep the puppet governments in power, to start wars, and none of this money will be used here. It is a scam. It is a hoax, and this is what they're doing to the American people. Now, I know in this country there's a lot of mass shootings. And there was a report out there that says that all these mass shootings have one thing in common, and it's not the weapons. Because we saw a mass stabbing, and that wasn't with a gun. Of course, the news really wasn't out there saying we have to ban or write executive orders to ban knives. But all of these have the same thing in common, and they went through every single mass shooting. They went through every single person, and they found out that every single person was on some type of SSRI drug. Some type of drug. And if we look at this, and I have a list here on x22report.com, all the kids that were taking this and the adults that were taking this, it's Ritalin, it's Prozac, it's Zoloft, it's Celexa, it's Paxil, and all of this has the same effect, where people hear voices, people have rage, they feel they need to kill someone. This has nothing to do with weapons whatsoever. This has to do with the drug companies. And of course, you hear nothing about this because the drug companies are very, very powerful. And if you want to hear more about this, go to ssristories.com, and you can hear more and read more stories about all these drugs. And even in Sandy Hook, if you really look at this and you see Adam Lanza, he was on Celexa. All these people were on some type of SSRI drugs right now. And of course, the corporate media doesn't report this. The government doesn't mention it anywhere, because they want you to believe that the weapons are the cause of this. It's almost like an alcoholic who's driving a car. They drink, they get into a car. The car didn't cause the accident. The car who ran into 6 people and 2 cars and killed a family, the car didn't do this. It was the person drinking the alcohol that got into the car drunk and drove away. The same thing with weapons. The weapon doesn't kill anyone. It's the person behind the weapon. It could be a knife, it could be a crowbar, it could be a bow and arrow. It makes no difference. This is the drugs that are causing this. And this, we need to get to the root of the problem. And actually, before all these type of drugs, there was no such thing as mass shootings like this. Now, we understand that DHS was completely created by George Bush back in November of 2002, and this was right after 9/11, and the task of DHS was to prevent terrorism, to reduce the nation's vulnerability to terrorists, and they have done nothing with that whatsoever. They haven't stopped one terrorist. They set up about 78 fusion centers to spy on the American people, to keep track of the American people, to have this data filtered into the NSA. But if you really look at the record of DHS from 2002 to now, which is that 12 years now, they haven't done one thing to stop terrorism. The one big chance they had that everyone saw was the Boston bombing. Their alert system was completely blank. It never showed anything because all of these terrorist acts are not natural. They're created by the FBI, by the government, by the CIA, to create fear in the American people, to have you give up your rights. And what we're seeing is that Wendell Oliver, a retired Virginia police officer, said, and he wrote a book about this, that DHS has not solved or prevented any terrorist act in the United States whatsoever in 12 years. Because they weren't designed for this. They weren't created for this. They were created to control the American people when the collapse comes. You are the terrorists, the domestic terrorists that they're coming after. And right now, you're not doing anything for them to go on high alert. Once the American people start to make moves or to protest or to move out and do something, then all of a sudden you will see DHS come alive. They will go on high alert. All of a sudden you'll see the troops being dispatched, and everyone will be sitting there going, why is DHS getting involved in all this? And everyone will start to realize, oh, they're coming after the American people. They don't want them protesting. They don't want them going to Washington saying, we want the people out of office, peacefully, of course. But they will not use peaceful means. They will use force on the American people, just like we saw in the Bundy Ranch, where they came with snipers, helicopters, dogs, tasers, to push the people back and back and back. We're seeing this happen in Kiev, in Ukraine, in Donetsk, in Slavansk. We're seeing all the force being used. They're in there with APCs, tanks, snipers, helicopters, troops. There's about 30,000 troops on foot handling this anti-terrorism campaign. They're continually pushing the agenda, and we will see this come to America when the entire system starts falling apart. Now, the United States is getting ready to go into Nigeria. They're using this case of the sex trafficking in Nigeria. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder is offering law enforcement assistance to help rescue more than 200 Nigerian schoolgirls kidnapped by the Islamist militant group Boko Haram. Now, they have the video out there, and they're showing it. Of course, every time I see a satellite photo that is blurred or any type of video that is blurred, you pretty much know that this is kind of made up in some way, and they're blurring the video on purpose because they don't want people to really see anything in these videos. With these high definition cameras, especially the satellite cameras, you're trying to tell me that these pictures are so blurred that they can't make anything out? No, they can focus down on a certain area, and that picture will be crisp and clear. Same thing with the phone cameras. All the cameras are crisp and clear. They only become blurred when CNN, Fox, and all the other stations start showing videos. They always seem to blur them up a little bit, and they're using this. And don't get me wrong, sex trafficking is happening everywhere in the world. It just so happens that they're using this case right now, and they're saying that, the United States needs to get involved in this area. But it's happening in many, many different areas. And we really have to look at what Nigeria is. And Nigeria, they have a huge amount of petroleum, and that's a large part of the Nigerian economy. It's about 40% of their GDP. They also have many other underexploited mineral resources: natural gas, coal, gold, tin, iron, limestone. And let me just say this: the United States government, the Department of Justice, Eric Holder, is going to do absolutely nothing in Nigeria to help that situation there. And first of all, what person who is doing trafficking of young girls puts out a video and tells the world? It makes no sense whatsoever. What criminal who's robbing a bank makes a video, lets everyone know which bank they're robbing, shows who they are, and tells everyone, yes, I'm doing this? No, it doesn't work that way. It's almost like the United States saying that they're hearing chatter from Al-Qaeda because they're using Facebook and Twitter and their cell phones. We know this is fake. No real terrorist organization is going to do this over a public communication as social media or a cell phone. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we can see that this is some type of ploy to get U.S. forces into Nigeria. They're not going to help the Nigerian people. They're not going to help with the sex trafficking. They're not going to do anything of the sort. What you will see there is all of a sudden war will start to break out. The United States will start taking control, and just like they're doing in every region in Central Africa at this time. And we also have to remember, I mean, France, when Germany asked for their gold back, it was like 2 days, 3 days, a week later, they invaded Mali because, what is it, the third largest producer of gold in Africa? All of a sudden they had to go down there because of Al-Qaeda. So you can see what is happening right now. Now, since they are getting prepared to go into Nigeria, the United States central bankers have signed a 10-year deal for the Djibouti base, which is right next to Yemen. It is in the choke point of the Gulf of Aden, so they will control either side of the choke point. And also this base is going to be used, and it's going to house conventional and special forces as well as aerial drones to handle what they're going to do in the Central African region. And Washington paid $63 million to lease this base. Okay, now Russia is bringing in warships, SAMs, troops, subs into the Crimea area right now. The Russian defense minister is planning to deploy additional forces in Crimea as part of beefing up the Black Sea Fleet under a $2.5 billion program. Before year's end, they will form new units of air defense and marine troops at the sites of our fleet deployment because they see what's happening here. They're beefing it up. It's part of Russia right now. It's all part of their program, and they're also doing it because they're seeing what NATO's doing. They are beefing up their troops, their military assets, so Russia is now doing the same. Just like when the United States and NATO beefed up the missile shield that's really supposed to be using, that was put there because of Iran, which it really wasn't. It was put there for Russia. Russia also started to build up their missile shield that counters the NATO United States missile shield. So we can see what is happening right now. They are all getting prepared for what is coming. Now, there was a report on corporate media saying that a Russian plane was flying very close to the U.S., but they were in international airspace, and the Russians were out there saying, we can fly anywhere in international airspace. It doesn't make a difference. The United States does it all the time. And of course, the corporate media is playing this up big time. It makes no sense for them. What are they going to do? Fly into the United States and start bombing? They're not going to do this. This is propaganda. If Russia really wanted to get into war with the United States, they had their opportunity. It was perfect. They could have let the United States strike Syria back in August of 2013. Russia was backing Syria, and they could have just went all out, and we could have started World War III. This makes no sense in what the United States is trying to tell everyone and the corporate media. It makes no sense of them using this propaganda. And what we're seeing is most of it I would say almost all, is turning out to be lies. Lies about the troop buildup, lies about Russia, what Russia is doing, lies about the chemical attacks in Syria. And as we see this, it's going on and on and on, and we're seeing more and more lies. Now, Moldova has ordered the country's borders to go on a state of alert due to worsening security and escalating violence in neighboring Ukraine. But the top leaders fail to identify a specific threat. There is no threat. The government in Moldova is a friend of the United States central bankers, and they've been told to go on alert for, Russia invading or something like that. And you have to remember, the Transnistria region in Moldova wants to break away and join Russia. They want to have a referendum, just like Crimea, and of course, Moldova, the government will not let this happen. Now, the Ukraine is going to receive their money from the IMF, and they are going to buy $1 billion worth of gold. Now, we have to remember, the United States central bankers flew in the cover of night, loaded up a plane, people dressed in black, and they loaded up gold in a plane, and they left the country. They looted the country of the gold. Now they're using money that's being loaned to them to purchase gold. So they're buying gold on a credit card. They're doing this, most likely, to fill the Federal Reserve Bank with gold, because countries are asking for their gold back, and now they're going to use Ukraine as a proxy to purchase the gold, because it can't look like the United States is purchasing gold, because people will question, like, why do you need this gold now? They are doing this. You will see the gold leave Ukraine and go to the Federal Reserve Bank. And of course, they're out there saying that they're going to use this to purchase the gold to stabilize the financial situation in the country. No, they're not. They caused the problems there. They put them into more debt. There is no way they're using this to purchase gold for Ukraine after they just stole that gold from them. And of course, they're going to use this. The remainder will go to the budget to stabilize the macroeconomic and financial situation in Ukraine. They don't care about the economic situation in Ukraine. They care about looting it. They wanted the entire Ukraine. They wanted the production areas. They wanted to loot the entire country. They wanted the gold, and now they're using it as a proxy to purchase gold, to have it sent off to the Federal Reserve Bank, so when Italy and other countries ask for their gold back, they can say, oh yeah, look, we have it right here. Here you go. Okay, now Lavrov is out there, and he's saying that for these talks between Ukraine, the eastern and the western section, for them to work, we need everyone to come together. We need the United States, we need the western Ukrainian government, we need the southeastern section of Ukraine and Russia. We need all to come together, and we need to have a dialogue and talk out what is going on here. And again, this will most likely not happen. The United States central bankers don't want to talk. They do not want peace. They want war. They're trying as best they possibly can to really push the war agenda, and they will not let up whatsoever. Now, the United States is granting diplomatic status to Syrian opposition party. They are making it seem like the opposition right now is the Syrian government. They're saying we recognize the opposition as the government, and we do not recognize the Assad government at this time. And you can see how they're doing this. They told all the Syrian embassies in the United States to close down, and all the officials had to leave. Now they are giving the opposition, and most of them aren't even Syrian, $27 million to their cause. They're also sent them the anti-tank, the anti-aircraft. They're training many, many paid mercenaries to go into Syria, and now they're opening up offices and embassies here in the United States, and the opposition is going to fill these buildings, and they will be the new government of Syria. But again, you just can't say that this is a new government with a government that's already existing, that's already have an election. It makes no sense whatsoever, but they're pushing their agenda, of course. They want to show that Assad doesn't exist and the opposition does, and they're pushing this agenda forward. We can see what is happening right now. They are making preparations because they're going to push this war agenda, and we're going to see some type of an event because now they removed the embassies in the United States. They got rid of the Syrian government officials. They're bringing in the opposition. They're now filling the embassies, and they're slated as being the actual government of Syria. They're giving them money. They're giving them weapons. This is in preparation for something very, very big that's going to happen. And we will see something happen very, very soon with this. And this goes on to say that the opposition offices were considered informal liaisons offices until Monday announcement, where they will become foreign diplomatic missions under U.S. law. And this is an important step in the path toward a new Syria, its recognition on the international stage, and its relations with Syrian nationals in the U.S. So you can see how they're pushing this agenda. They're going to continue with this. Now, we understand in Ukraine that they've been pushing and pushing the war agenda. They want Russia to do something. And they're having a problem because Russia's doing nothing. They're sitting back. There's no troops in there. The New York Times reporters went there to find the Russian people. They couldn't find them. They've had an NBC crew drive up and down the border of Ukraine and Russia, and they found no troop buildup. They have flyovers with the Open Sky Treaty. They cannot find forces. So what are they going to do? Like I said in previous reports, if they cannot provoke Russia, they will do it themselves. And right now, Ukrainian authorities on Monday announced the seizure of radioactive material that had been smuggled into the country from a separatist region. It's funny how they call it separatist. Why don't they just say it's the people of Ukraine? But they like to call them separatists or terrorists. Or the Ukrainian Security Service Counterintelligence Branch apprehended 9 individuals on April 30th. The Security Service characterized the seized material as a source of ionizing radiation, which possibly contained uranium-235 with a weight of roughly 1.5 kilograms. Security Service officials are not excluding the possibility that the alleged nuclear smuggling ring was planning to construct a radiological weapon that might be detonated during public gatherings in the southeastern part of Ukraine for the purpose of fomenting political and social unrest. Department spokesman Mirna Ostapenko told reporters in Kiev that the hazardous substance was brought to the territory of Ukraine from the self-proclaimed, now get this, Transnistria, this is in Moldova. These are the people that wanted a referendum to join Russia. Isn't it strange how it came from there? It was brought over in a car with an international number plate. The radioactive substance was stored in a makeshift container. According to initial information, at least one Russian national and a number of Ukrainian citizens were arrested. So one Russian, just to keep that in the back of your mind, that Russia was behind this. They are setting up a false flag. This is the first step to make you think Russia is going to be behind exploding a dirty nuclear weapon, and exploding a dirty bomb and dispersing the radioactive material with conventional explosives could still cause significant environmental and psychological damage in the area. And of course, when people hear dirty bomb, oh my God, it's a nuclear bomb, radiation spreads everywhere, people get afraid, and you can see what they're trying to do here. They are moving the agenda forward. They're not going to stop. Now, they have 2 different flashpoints here. They have what's going on in Ukraine. All of a sudden they found dirty bomb material coming from that region of Moldova that is pro-Russian, and they stopped him. Of course, there was one Russian involved in this, and you know this was a complete setup. This was done on purpose to make everyone believe Russia's behind this. Now we have to think of motive. Why would Russia use a dirty bomb in Ukraine? How would that help them at this point? Exploding it in the southeastern section. It makes no sense whatsoever. But on the other side of the puppet government in Ukraine and the United States central bankers, them exploding a dirty bomb and saying it was sent there by Russia allows them to say, see, Russia is getting involved. They are there. They're trying to attack the anti-terrorism forces that are going after the Russian people. You can see how this is playing out. The other flashpoint is Syria at this time. We can see they're giving them money, weapons, and now they're saying that they're the real government. Of course, they're not, because Assad is having elections, and there's many countries that are going to be involved overseeing the elections, and they understand they need to do something before June 3rd. And we will, from this point until then, we're going to have to keep a close eye on what is going on, because we have these two hot flashpoints right now with events coming out of them. Now, will these events hit United States? It could be a good possibility that something might occur. We have already given the story that the airplane that was missing was taken over by Al-Qaeda, so they're throwing Al-Qaeda at us. They've been telling us that Syria is a launching pad for terrorists. They are radicalized. They know how to make bombs. They know how to use nuclear material to make dirty bombs. So you can see how this is all playing together right now. One way or another, they will push the war agenda. They don't care where it comes from, because the players are all the same. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.